there's really a feeling of more ease and yet at the same time more anxiety because it
Mhm.
starts to feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they do for detox, but in movement,
Mhm.
what we would say is then back off a little, right?
Mhm.
Because it is really hard to deepen when something is pulling you back. So we back
Absolutely.
off a little. So how
Right.
does that work in your world?
Yeah, in my world, it's slow down. So it's similar.
Slow
Slow
down.
down
Yeah.
and connect to what I say the actual factual.
Oh,
Keep
tell
coming.
me.
So the actual factual is just what is undeniably self-evident.
Okay.
And so, for example, um, there's warmth in the center of my palms. There's a spicy feeling in my or sense in my mouth because I'm drinking my favorite chai.
Yeah.
Um, there's like a little bit of holding in my belly. Um, there's hundreds of sensations that are happening right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual factual is just noticing them. It's
Mm-hmm.
not judging the holding in my belly or the spiciness in my mouth. It's just observing or witnessing because it is what it is. And when we use that part of the brain to connect to what simply is, whether we like it or not, we don't have to like it. I can be like,
Right.
I hate XYZ, but I'm going to just name it as it is.
Yeah.
When we do that, our brains and nervous systems regulate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of really, no, it's actually everything. It's so important, right? Like it's really, yeah, it is really important. So that's what I
Yeah.
do is when I'm spinning out, even just so slightly, a doubting thought for me at this point is a bit of a spinning out. Not
Mm.
not 100%, right? Context is always everything.
Right.
But if I have a familiar what I call a predictable thought pattern, and it's kind of going to lead to what I know as a slight dysregulation, then
Mm-hmm.
I know how to regulate. I know the tools and the
Yeah.
practices and the toys to regulate my brain and nervous system. And so slowing down to being with what is actually here and now,
Yeah.
slowly with compassion and some patience
Yeah.
is pretty important for me. This is
Yeah. And
kind of the work
it's
that
interesting because here and now, I'm sorry, it sounds like there's more you want to
no,
say.
no, 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 you go.
It sounds here and now is actually trickier than I think. Oftentimes I catch myself because when I sit down, I try to do a lesson a day. And
Hmm.
when I lie down to do a lesson, it can be really difficult not to project ahead to how I might feel after the lesson.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I'm deepening, where will I be when I'm
Right.
deeper? And I have to back away from that. And
Mhm.
that for me is one of the biggest challenges.
Absolutely. It's like a real investment in the process of the moment,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
trusting that the moment that we're in is enough.
Yeah.
And we don't know what will come afterwards. So when you're in the lesson, or I'm in my chanting, or I'm in my meditation, or I'm just dropping down for a moment, or I'm just meditation for me is kind of a all the time on some level, just checking in,
Yeah.
like really. I'm not doing it because I know. I mean, I know it does regulate my brain, but I'm doing it because there's a resonance of it.
Mm.
I'm actually connecting with truth when I do that. By truth, I
Mm.
mean
Mhm.
the nature of reality.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that has a different resonance. And yet we have these human minds and this culture that's so interested in production and
Mhm.
and result and outcome. So
Yeah.
absolutely, it's like the invitation to really come back to enjoy the lesson, whatever that actually means,
Yeah.
right? So the lesson that you're doing, like maybe you could speak to that, like the lesson that you're doing that day. It might be exquisite, it might be uncomfortable, it might be awkward, it might be like fill in the blank. And what do you invite yourself to stay connected with, regardless of how it, like your experience of it in the moment? Does that make sense?
Mhm. Right. So in the moment, the most important thing for me, Um, just because of my makeup, right? Someone else might have to focus on another part to bring themselves back. But for me, it's staying curious
Mm, hmm.
and letting go of the certainty that I actually know what's going on. I have to stop and say, it doesn't matter how many times I've moved my arm in this way before. I bet there are ways of moving this arm that I have not yet discovered. And sure enough, when I can just get into that really open and curious place,
Hmm. Hmm.
I do discover something. And it may
Yeah,
not seem
right.
earth shattering, but it is in the sense that, wow, I've broken this barrier of knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things that are coming up. One is that the mundane is the profound, and I find that to be true.
Yeah.
However, we humans love fireworks, and so we miss the whatever we want to call it. We miss the profundity because we're out of time. We're in our fantasy expectation space.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to connect to, and I know Kathleen has been in your been
Yeah.
a student as well of yours, is that in moments when I've been in your classes, there'll definitely be moments where without that curiosity and what I would call a beginner's mind, or like a willingness
Hmm.
to pause what I think is happening or where it's going or where it's been, but just to be with what it is now, it opens the space for that newness to arise just spontaneously.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
remember, like, probably in some of my earliest classes with you, like, what are we up to?
I know.
Because that's just like, that's a very strong part of my psyche, is like wanting to figure out and wanting to know, and certainty, and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and like some vigilance. And so
Yeah.
it took me a while, a few sessions to really get the resonance of what we're up to. And I think that might be true a lot of times for my clients as well. Is like it
Yeah.
takes a while for them to realize, like, oh, we're really just in discovery, and that's like the miracles of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you might not, like, a person might not get that on the first session, because it is a whole thought, it's a different thought technology that you and I are engaging with in our work,
Yeah.
and it's counterintuitive, based on our culture and what we're trained
Yeah.
to orient to.
It's so different. And I'm curious if Kathleen is still here, if she has anything she wants to type in the comments or a question related to that, because so feel free, Kathleen, if you're here to type away, I'll just keep talking until I see something. But it's true. Most newbies come to a lesson and say, but what am I supposed to be doing?
Hmm.
What am I supposed to feel?
Mm.
And the answer is always, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
your body.
yeah, and that